to share a conversation with someone, run errands, hold someone's hand. All you need is a willingness to help others. Our volunteers believe the blessings they receive far exceed the services they offer. Will you consider serving, caring, and making a difference? Call today, 873-7441. Hospice of Marion County, making more moments of life possible.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I've been pretty fortunate in my life not to have too many health issues. But when I get a headache, it's like I'm dying. It's like I'm such a baby when it comes to things like that. But you know what I do? I go to the closet and I get my aspirin.
Uh-huh.
I know some people prefer the non-aspirin painkillers, but aspirin has always been my choice. Anyway, sorry about the block knocking here. But anyway. I was reading this report that said that aspirin probably wouldn't have been approved if it was invented today. And I don't want to get into the details as to why, but the Food and Drug Administration, on one hand we should all be glad that we have such an agency that, looks out for our best interest. But on the other hand, it's a government agency, and sometimes they drag their feet. When you have scientists, doctors, healthcare providers who have figured out a way with a medication to handle a problem, and I minimized it to the most degree that I could by mentioning a headache. But when you have children with epilepsy and have seizures for other reasons, and you find out that can actually be curbed or at bay, I don't think it's cured, I don't think the word cured is used, but with the medicinal marijuana, you have to ask yourself, why are we so opposed to this? Is it because of the image that marijuana had goes way back to Woodstock and before that even, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody who knows a whole lot more about this than I ever will is on the phone. Ben Pollara, he's the campaign manager for At United for Care. They are fighting for a sensible medical marijuana law in Florida, and it only makes sense to me. And I promise you, if I disagreed with the position he takes, I would hold true to my disagreement. But in this case, I happen to agree with what I read so far anyway. Mm-hmm. And I always respectfully disagree when I disagree, but I don't think that's going to happen today. So it won't be a fun interview. It won't be fun because we're not going to be arguing. Ben Pollara, good morning, Ben. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We're coming up on the date already. We do a lot of outdoor things here at the radio station, a lot of remote broadcasts and at community events. And quite often there are people out there with clipboards saying, would you sign the petition to get it on the ballot? How are we doing with that? Is it on the ballot already?
We are on the ballot. You should not be seeing those folks anymore.
Okay.
Although they may still be out there. But I'm glad you started out your show with what you said about aspirin, because I think it's important for a couple of reasons. First, you said aspirin might not even be approved by the FDA today.
Right.
Aspirin's a miracle drug, right? Beyond your headache, aspirin's probably saved hundreds of thousands of lives because of what it does for people with heart disease. And so aspirin is an unbelievable thing that may not have been approved by today's FDA. The other side of it, though, is that aspirin and other what they call NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, over-the-counter painkillers, kill 5,000 people every single year in the United States from overdoses and complications. Not a single human person in the history of civilization has ever died from an overdose of marijuana. And yet we can go into our medicine cabinet and pull out 2 or 3 or 4 aspirin, and as well as any number of other drugs that are much more dangerous.
Right.
But in Florida, at least, medical marijuana is still illegal.
Well, let me say something, and not that I need anybody to know how I feel about this, but I just for the conversation, I guess. I have no opposition to marijuana, even being recreational. I absolutely don't.
Me too.
I lived in California for a while. I was around it all the time. I wasn't a smoker myself of anything, but I didn't see anybody going nutty. I didn't see anybody pulling out guns and knives and I didn't see anybody going nutty. Now that said, that's not anything to do with this. This has nothing to do with that. It's two totally different things. Correct?
Absolutely correct. This is for in the specific case of the Florida amendment. This is for people whose doctors diagnose them with a quote unquote debilitating medical condition. And to give the doctor an idea of what a debilitating medical condition is, we list a number of conditions like cancer, epilepsy, HIV/AIDS, Crohn's disease, PTSD. Things that are patently debilitating.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately for you, your headache would probably not qualify you for medical marijuana use. But.
Now, let me ask you this, and forgive me for not knowing his name, and if you're not on the same page as him, then that's okay too. But there's an attorney down in Orlando who's very much a strong proponent for what you want, which is to pass this.
He's the chairman of our campaign.
Oh, okay, and tell me his name again. I'm sorry.
John Morgan.
Morgan. Okay, yes. Now, doesn't he have a brother or a son or somebody who benefits from this medication?
Yes. So John's brother Tim has been in a wheelchair since he was 18 years old. He was a lifeguard at Disney when he was a teenager, injured trying to save a kid, and has been paralyzed basically from the neck down since then. And as a result of his injuries, he has just horrible muscle spasms. Even in muscles that he no longer has control of, he has these just crippling spasms where he feels like he's going to die. And one of the only things that's been able to alleviate the pain of those spasms, as well as the other pain that he feels being a quadriplegic, is marijuana. And in addition to Tim, John and Tim's father, who passed away about 20 years ago, was dying of cancer, wasting away with the chemo and the radiation. Doctors gave him 6 months to live, and because he was living with Tim convinced him to try marijuana. And after months of not getting out of bed, he sat up in bed, had 2 plates of dinner, drank a beer, watched the football game, and lived for 3 years after they'd given him 6 months to live. And John and Tim and the rest of their family attribute that to his use of marijuana.
What was he doing? Smoking it or taking pills?
This was in the 90s. They were smoking.
Okay.
Okay.
It almost sounded like you didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Today, today, a lot of medical marijuana is administered in non-smoked ways, either vaporization,
right,
edibles, oils, tinctures, pills. But 20 years ago, that was pretty much the only option.
So now, since this is on the ballot, does it do both things? Does it say yes to make marijuana recreational, and also does it say yes to make marijuana medical, or are those two separate bills, two separate issues?
They're two totally separate issues. This is only for medical marijuana and only for people with quote-unquote debilitating medical conditions.
And the medical marijuana is processed. It's not like they roll it up and you smoke it, right?
Well, some people will, but for a lot of folks, specifically those using it for medicinal reasons, they want it in a more concentrated or processed form, or formulation specific for what the symptoms they have that they're trying to relieve are.
Brownies.
So if it was passed, if the law was passed, let's see, how would they get it? Would they have a prescription for it?
They would have what's called a physician certification. Doctors cannot write a prescription for marijuana because their prescription pads are governed by the DEA, and marijuana is still illegal at the federal level. But what they would write is actually more detailed than what we think of as a prescription. A doctor scrawling some illegible stuff on a little pad. It would affirm that person had been diagnosed with a debilitating medical condition. That they believe that the person's use of marijuana would outweigh any health risks of that use. The benefits of the use would outweigh any health risks, and for how long the physician believes their patient should use marijuana.
Okay.
So a physician would give that to a patient. Patient would get a identification card issued by the State Department of Health. and then could buy marijuana legally from a medical marijuana treatment center licensed by the Department of Health.
We have to take a little break. On the other side of the break, are you okay with taking phone calls?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll open up the phone lines on the other side of the break. Let's take that break right now. And if you could, I don't know if this is easy for you or not, to give us the other side. None of us are disagreeing with you, and we don't have anybody, unless somebody calls in and disagrees. Maybe that would be fun to listen to. But there was a piece that was provided to me about a video that has a lot of falsehoods. Maybe you could tell me what they're saying in this video that you want to tell us that you disagree with. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Bright and sunny today, a high of 83 to 87, and clear tonight, a low 62 to 70. Partly sunny tomorrow, a high of 83 to 87 again. It'll be humid and partly sunny with a shower thunderstorm Saturday, the high 85 to 89. Afternoon thunderstorms Sunday, most of the days partly sunny, high of 87 to 91. A few showers and thunderstorms around on Memorial Day. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Maggie Johnson.
Hello, gorgeous.
Hi, this is Becky at Hello Gorgeous Salon. Let's get rid of those sun-damaged ends and faded out color and get into something rich and vibrant. It's time to get that new look started. So call today and set up your appointment at Hello Gorgeous Salon, 351-5358. Hello Gorgeous is a certified Brazilian blowout salon. We can tame those locks, leaving your hair healthy and shiny with a Brazilian smoothing treatment. And whether you're going on a job interview or out on a date, your hands do a lot of talking. Manicures are a must. Hello Gorgeous is a full-service salon, so let us help you make a great first impression. Call us today to set your appointment at Hello Gorgeous. Our number is 352-351-5358. Again, that's 352-351-5358. Hello Gorgeous is conveniently located in the heart of downtown Ocala, right next to the historic Marion Theater. And don't forget, we also do men and children's cuts too.
Hello, gorgeous.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Most planes get a set of freshly washed blankets and pillows for the first flight of the day. After that, they're folded up, they're reused. Babies consistently cried less when their father was close by compared to when dad was absent, and that response was observed even in the delivery room. Try to stick to your usual sleep and wake times as much as possible, even on the weekends. Your waistline and your hearts are going to thank you.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
All right, 17 minutes actually after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. We are talking about a bill that you will be voting on in November 8th. It's the medical marijuana bill. That's what we call it for short. It's Amendment 2. It's called Use of Marijuana for Debilitating Medical Conditions, I think. I hope I have that right. And on the phone to educate us about this is Ben Pollara. Ben, where are you? Where are you calling from?
I am calling from sunny Miami Beach, Florida.
Miami. All right. Which is going to have the Super Bowl in 2020.
Yes, the Live Bowl.
Either that or it's South Florida. So there's a big argument down there right now, right?
It was South Florida when we were trying to get it. Now that we've got it, it's Miami.
What are they smoking down there anyway? What's the matter with them? All right.
They're smoking the stuff that lets them know that people know Miami more than they know South Florida, I think.
So I guess before we go to the phone calls, I want to say something else. That I used to smoke cigars, okay? And I don't smoke anything anymore. And just bringing smoke into your lungs just seems like, okay, that's probably not a good idea. But we're talking about people who benefit from doing that, apparently. That's what it sounds like. Or you can do the pill version if you prefer, right? Mm-hmm. Am I right about that?
Well, there's many different ways that you can consume medical marijuana. There's smoking, there's vaporization, which is where you're heating up the marijuana to a point where the chemicals are released, but it doesn't actually combust. There's edible products, there are oils, there are patches, there are creams that you can rub on your body. So yeah, there's a number of different options.
And if I were a doctor and I said this is going to help you, I would say, but smoke in your lungs is not. As much as my patient might want to have smoke in his lungs, I think I would say, yeah, why don't you do the oil or something, do the brownies or something.
Sure. I mean, the other side of it is if it's palliative. If people are dying.
Right.
Illness.
Right.
I mean, who cares? If it's harmful to their lungs, right? I mean, I have a friend who was suffering from brain cancer, and she was a cigarette smoker, and she asked her doctor, well, do I need to quit smoking? Is it going to make it worse? And he goes, look, you're dying of brain cancer. It's not going to make it any worse. If it gives you a little bit of comfort to smoke a cigarette, smoke a cigarette.
Yeah,
and I think most people would agree with that. If somebody's suffering and dying, who cares what they do? But it's about more than that. It's not just palliative. It's about helping people on a daily basis, not just folks who are dying.
Right, and I think the story, because it was one of those stories when it first started that I thought, well, whatever the people want, I don't really have an opinion. But when you do a talk show, you almost have to decide how do you feel about it. And the story that persuaded me to before this was the little girl who had epilepsy. And I think it was one of her parents who was really fighting for this. And they were taking the girl elsewhere, other states that allowed this.
Yeah, out west.
Yep.
And it helped her, but they couldn't do it here in Florida. It's just, I don't know, it makes sense to me to make this one.
We actually have a term for those folks. We call them medical marijuana refugees. And unfortunately, it's an all too common phenomenon of folks. A lot of folks from Florida, but other states who, pack up their whole families and move to a state like Colorado with legal medical marijuana because they're parents and they're going to do whatever they can for their sick kid.
Part of the argument against this last time, was it 2 years ago we did this argument last 2 years ago?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The part of the argument wasn't about the legalization of medical marijuana, but it was about doing it through an amendment. That was part of it. So you might get some of that too as we go into these calls. So let me take some of the calls. If you want to call, you're welcome to do that. The number is 622-9622. I think I've got somebody waiting. Good morning. Thank you for being on the air. And thank you for waiting. You're on with Ben Pollara.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for taking my call. Is there any form of medical marijuana you can take that will not make you high?
Yeah, there are some forms. I mean, what we've already legalized in the state of Florida, what the state legislature legalized, is a form of marijuana that has a very, very low percentage of THC, which is probably the most active chemical compound in marijuana, and what scientists say is the chemical that actually gets you high, and CBD, which is one of the second or third most active chemicals, and the one that they've said has the impact on lessening seizures and things like that. So ostensibly, yes, you can, but
marijuana be habit forming.
Yeah, it can, but I mean, not. It's habit forming to the extent that anything can be habit forming. I mean, it's marijuana is far, far less addictive than nicotine, less addictive than caffeine. Addictive somewhere on the level of chocolate or pornography. I mean, anything can be habit forming, but marijuana has no properties of physical addiction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a good question, actually. Yeah, I never thought about it being habit forming, but everything, you're right, is habit forming. So what do you say to the people who say, I'm for the gist of what you're saying, but can you do it in a way that's not an amendment? What do you say to those people?
I would say no, we can't, and the proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, the legislature has failed the state of Florida, has failed the majority of Floridians who voted yes on medical marijuana on this issue. We heard a lot in 2014 that hey, I'm for medical marijuana, but it really shouldn't be done through the Constitution. And so when we came short of 60% in 2014, we made a real concerted effort to go to the legislature and say, listen, we got 58% of the vote. Opponents and supporters alike said we should do this legislatively versus constitutionally. So let's work together and try to do it. And they failed. I mean, it had a lot to do with the fact that was the year that the Florida House of Representatives simply stopped working 3 or 4 days before they were supposed to.
Right.
But they failed us. They failed us in 2015.
They were on drugs.
And they failed us in 2016.
Sure.
So, I mean, can it be done legislatively? And should it be done legislatively? Yes. But has the Florida legislature demonstrated any propensity to actually do it? No. And so that's why we're back on the ballot.
Okay, let's go to the phone again. Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Yeah, you answered the question I was going to ask, so I'll ring off.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I was totally against marijuana, period. And lately I've been having problems with reactions to medications I'm taking, and it's basically due to age. And I find that the stuff that I was taking for years, all of a sudden I can't tolerate. So now that's what I'm doing now, is trying to find something that isn't going to have serious side effects. And right now it has nothing to do with the marijuana, but it's changing my mind as to how I would vote for the use of medical marijuana because of some of the things that happen with our regular pills. Example, today most of our stuff comes from India or China, and the FDA only cares about what the actual content of medicine in the pill. There's no, they don't really give a hoot about the fillers and binders that go into a pill. And to me, that one medicine I was taking was the binder was causing all kinds of trouble. So anyway, it's something that we all should keep a little more open mind to, and mine is seeing the light of day, so to speak. So thank you very much for what you do. Thank you, WOCA, for the programming and bringing this out.
Oh, thank you for the call. Yeah.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the call, and I'm sorry that the caller is going through that with his medication, but I'm glad that he's kind of coming around on this issue. And frankly, that's something I hear on a almost daily basis from folks who, are on prescription drugs for, an underlying condition, but either the drugs aren't working or they're working, but the side effects are too bad to make it worthwhile to take them. The worst example that I can think of this is, there's a little kid in Miami named Bruno who suffers from, sometimes hundreds a day seizures, and the doctors have put him on all these different sorts of medications. A lot of them, heavily narcotic, and he still has these seizures. But one thing that they put him on was Klonopin, which is a benzodiazepine, like Xanax, like Valium, and the Klonopin did not work. However, by the time they figured out that it didn't work, he'd become addicted to the Klonopin. And and they couldn't take him off, and they could not take him off of this drug. This 4-year-old little kid, they couldn't take him off of this drug because one of the withdrawal side effects when you're dependent on Klonopin is seizures. So it was like a total catch-22.
Holy cow!
I hear that every single day from folks who want medical marijuana or are currently using medical marijuana illegally because they don't want to take so many pills.
So the way I understand the legal part of this is that the intelligent responses that you're making today obviously went to deaf ears in the legislature. They weren't listening to what you were saying, because anybody who's elected to represent the people should have been listening to what you said, and we could have done it another way. But you're taking it to so in other words, by making an amendment, you're taking it directly to the people.
Correct. And I don't want to say that they weren't listening, because there were a lot of them that were listening, and there were some really courageous members of the Florida legislature, like Jeff Brandis, a Republican state senator from St. Petersburg, and many others. But they may have been listening, but they didn't take the appropriate action, right? But I think that the legislature has moved a lot on this issue, but they still haven't done anything about the issue. So now it's incumbent upon the people to do it.
Can I ask a question that you may not know the answer to, or maybe you do? We're always told follow the money. Is there a money reason why somebody would be opposed to this?
Well, the main backer, the main kind of organizer of the opposition campaign is a guy by the name of Mel Sembler. Mel and Betty Sembler, they're a couple in St. Petersburg. They're shopping mall developers. Mel Sembler was an ambassador a couple times under Republican presidents. They have been waging, their own personal war on drugs for about 40 years. They had a chain of rehab centers back in the 80s that got shut down because they were abusing kids. And then they turned it into a nonprofit foundation called the Drug Free America Foundation and Save Our Society from Drugs. And this is their single issue. And they are reflexively against marijuana in any way, shape, or form. So
they haven't listened to the logic that you've been giving us. We've had stories. So okay, so it sounds like there is money behind it. I don't know. Mm-hmm.
There is money behind it. I mean, they spent $7 million to defeat us last time, and,
wow.
and still $7 million being spent against us outspending us 2.5 to 1. 58% of Floridians still voted yes.
Very quick. We've got 45 seconds. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Larry, great questions, and it's a great, very honest show today. And I stand in no opposition. I'm actually a former policeman for the gentleman calling from Miami. I just would make a quick observation. Actually, for you, Larry, with your question, the police officers union stand in opposition to this. Keeps a lot of people in jails. And why would we want to keep people in jails? Because jails are now being turned over to corporations. So the largest opposition group, in addition to the gentleman he just mentioned, are the private jail lobbyists in Washington, D.C. So it's really, again, an argument of privatization versus the public.
Mark, good point. Interesting point. We're absolutely...
Mark, can you email me? We'd love to have former police officers speaking on behalf of the campaign. My email is ben@unitedforcare.org.
Okay, Ben at United4Care, the FOR, not the number 4. Unite, right?
Right.
United4care.org. Ben Pollara, thank you so much. Also, thank you, Gary Shore. I think Gary introduced us to you by way of email, I think, right, Robin?
Yes.
Right, Gary did? Ben, thank you so much for being on the air with us. Good show. Share the video. Robin will send it to you and the interview, and you can share it if it'll help at all.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. We'll take a little break. Be right back.
Very lucky no one was injured when a tornado last night stayed glued to the ground for an hour and a half. And a family in the Atlanta area may have a solution to the Zika mosquito problem. The Donaldsons have had a bat house